Stop talking about comic books or I'll kill you. I don't care if the Hulk could defeat the Man of Steel.
Hey there, comic fans. How you doing? Bullseye Bob here, and welcome to Everything Comics. And of course, this is the 30th episode of Having Comics with My Coffee. It's a show where we get together here in a local coffee shop here in Portland, have some great coffee, and we talk about the comics that I picked up this week on New Comic Book Day this last Wednesday. And man, we have a ton of books to review, and I probably am not going to get through them all this week, but we're going to do our darndest. Really excited to be here with you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to another one of my videos. Of course, as always, I'm coming to you live in living color from the Refuge Coffee House. They are located at 9217 Southeast Foster Road, right here in Portland. It is an amazing coffee shop. It is the official coffee shop of Everything Comics. And if you're ever in town, look me up. Let me know you're going to be here, and I'll come meet you for coffee. We'll talk about comics or talk about whatever you want. But this is a great place to hang out. It's one of my favorite coffee shops here in Portland. They make a mean cold brew, and hey, come meet me. So we always start with the coffee that we're drinking, and this morning I'm having my mainstay, which is a cold brew, and this time I got some sugar-free caramel sweetener inside of it, and it is really, really, really good. Yeah. So you guys will have to forgive me. I'm extremely tired, so if I'm slurring my words or if I seem like I'm sluggish, it's because I am. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the weather. It's starting to, like, a cold front's coming in, and anytime that happens, I get all sinusy and I get sluggish, and there's no amount of coffee in the world that can cut through that. And so if I seem a little more down than normally am, please forgive me. I'm going to try to keep it up though, folks. All right. So before we get into the show, we do have a couple of announcements. And so here we go. So first announcement is, guys, I made it to 1,000 subscribers. Woohoo! Yes, that finally happened this week. Thank you guys so much. I couldn't do this show without you. I couldn't, I mean, this just doesn't work without you guys. I want to thank you guys for your support. I want to thank all those people who helped me along the way to gain more subscribers, like Bueller and Rod the Rican, and a myriad of other people who gave me shout outs on their shows. Robbie from Pop Culture Philosophers, Sam from Sam's Tangled Web, Damien Sleepy Reader 666. These are all people who on their shows gave me shout outs and told people that, hey, this is a good place to come and subscribe. So I just want to thank, as much as I'm thanking you, I want to thank them as well, because I couldn't have gotten here without that help. And so I am so excited. Finally got here. I can kind of calm down, and now we can move into the next season of what this show is going to be, whatever that is. I'm kind of excited to see where we go next. So again, 1,000 subscribers. Thank you guys very much. Let's do this. And so for my next announcement, as I mentioned last week, Shannon Maer is actually having a private CGC signing. Shannon is a good friend of the show. He's a good friend of Comics with Bueller, and he's a really humble, down-to-earth guy. Love his artwork. I think he's bar none one of the best cover artists out there. And with all the pandemic and everything, all the Comic-Cons got canceled, and we're starting to see a lot of creators do these private CGC signings. And I was really hoping Shannon would do one, and he is. So basically what I'll do is I'll put a link down in the description so that you can get all the information that you need. One of the things I know is that the deadline to get your books in for Shannon to sign is July 8th. So make sure that you go to the website and check out the information and get your books in because he's got a ton of great stuff. And so anyway, check him out, folks. And my next announcement is I was on another show. Luke from Hydra Collectables, he had me on and we did an interview. And it was an awesome time. We talked about deep cut comic stuff. talking about my favorite characters and different stories and covers, comic book covers. I had a great time with Luke, and actually that video will be dropping about the time that this video drops, so I'll leave a link down in the description so you can go check it out. Do me a favor, go over to Luke's YouTube page and go check out all the stuff that he's putting out there. Give him a like and a subscribe. He has a great channel, and he's just an awesome guy. And so I really appreciate, all the help that you guys have given me, but check out his stuff. It's really awesome. And my next announcement is, like I said, being on another channel, Comics with Bueller. You guys know I'm on the Comics with Bueller channel. Bueller and I get together every week and we talk about deep dive comic book stuff. Love it. And this week is no different. He has a question that he poses every week on his preview video. And this week's question is a really good one. It's, do you think DC made the right decision in pulling out from Diamond? This is one of those that you've got to put your 2 cents in on. Go to his preview video, leave a comment, and we're going to have just an amazing discussion on this. And then the other thing is, we have a comic book roundtable. That's right. We do this every month. On this month, we're doing it on the Comics with Bueller channel, and I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. We're getting together with Dylan from Dylan's Comics, Robbie from Pop Culture Philosophers, and Bueller from Comics with Bueller and myself. We might have somebody else on there, but we're going to be going over our favorite comics of this month. We're finally back into having new comics weekly, which is awesome, and we're going to recount what our favorites are of the month. And so don't miss that. It'll be on the Comics with Bueller channel. The live stream will actually be happening before this video actually drops. So, but definitely go to his channel and check it out. It's going to be an awesome time. So there's my announcement, folks. We're going to go ahead and get into the show. And as you know, we always start with the cover of the week. And this week's cover of the week comes from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers number 50. That's right. Awesome book by Boom Studios. But this week's cover of the week is the Clayton Crane variant cover. There's only 300 of them made, and it is the Green Ranger with the Dragon Zord behind him. Check this out, folks. As soon as I saw this cover, I had to go out and get it. I was lucky. I do have it. It's going to be coming on the way. I was able to buy a copy, and it's just glorious. Check that out. Hope you enjoyed that. That's the cover of the week this week. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers number 50, the Clayton Crane variant. So let's go ahead and get into our reviews, folks. Now this week, like I said, there were just way too many books to be able to review them all here on this show. So I'm probably going to break this up into a couple of different shows. I'm going to have a live stream on Monday where I'm going to be doing an unboxing. So I'm thinking about reviewing the other half of my books on that day. There was just too many good books that came out, and I don't want to not review them. But I do want to keep the show down to 30 to 45 minutes if I can. And so I'm going to review the rest of those books on Monday. But I'm telling you, there was just so many good books. It felt like we were back to normal this week, which is kind of weird because next week there's hardly anything coming out. So my first book is Year Zero, number 2 by AWA Upshot. Of course, this was written by Benjamin Percy and art by Ramon Rosanes. Now, this book follows the same format that the first one did, where we are given glimpses of different places around the world. We have Mexico, we have Tokyo, we have Kabul, and we have Burnsville, Minnesota. And this is all basically different glimpses of life around the world as the zombie apocalypse is starting. And really a great format. I really enjoyed the first book, and this one kind of follows the same format. And truthfully, that kind of concerns me because if they keep with this format, you got 4 totally different stories going on. I think it's going to take a long time for them to develop. And from what I understand, this is only a 5-issue miniseries. So I don't know how they're going to be able to keep going and be able to tie all these stories together or tell a full story in each of those areas and do it justice. So I'm concerned about it, but I have to say, this book was really well done. We got a 5th location, which is in the one of the polar regions, and that seems to be Ground Zero. And for where this whole thing started, it looks like they found a caveman and took some tissue samples, and maybe that is the cause of this pathogen that's caused this zombie apocalypse. But really, the book is a great concept. The thing that I figured is that it's definitely going to be a slow burn, and we kind of understand what the term year zero meant. Is basically there's a scene inside of the church in Mexico, and the girl, when she kind of gets out of this situation with the zombie, she basically says that if there's anything, this is year zero, meaning time starts here. Life is going to change and it starts right here. And so that makes sense. That's year zero. Anyway, it's a great book. I love these books from AWA Upshot. Definitely check them out. And this one's no different. Okay, for my next book, it's Bleed Them Dry, #1 from Vault Comics. This one is written by Elliot Rahal, and the art is done by Dyke Ruhan. I've never heard of either one of those people, but this was a solid first read. The story is set in a kind of futuristic setting where humans and vampires kind of live alongside of each other. And the story centers around a detective, Detective Harper. And she's investigating the fact that they may have found a vampire serial killer. So vampires are considered immortals. They live alongside the humans, but they're kind of higher up, aristocracy. And why would anybody want to hunt down vampires? Because that would cause maybe a rift between the humans and these immortals. And but we have what seems to be a vampire serial killer on our hands. And it was such a fun story because we kind of find out that some of these vampires are vampire ninjas, which is just a cool concept. A lot of great action inside of this book. It has a very manga feel to it, but I definitely enjoyed it as a first read, and I'll definitely be getting it going forward. Where it goes from here, who knows, but I really enjoyed some of the stuff that happened inside of this book. There's a lot of places where it's like you're in the middle of something and then all of a sudden, boom, something else happens. And kind of that surprise, hit you in the face action that comes up when you're kind of focused on something. I really enjoyed that part of it. Anyway, check that one out. Bleed Them Dry, #1 from Vault Comics. It's definitely a good one. And so next we have White Widow, #4. This comes from Absolute Comics Group, and this one's written by Benny Powell, and the art is by Iwan Nazif. Now, I picked this up on a recommendation of a friend. He told me that it was really good. Quite frankly, when the White Widow books started being advertised and they started coming out, I didn't take them seriously. It kind of felt like the female comic book character pinup kind of girls, like the Vampirella stuff, where it's just basically a bunch of cover grabs. That's kind of what it felt like to me, so I didn't take it seriously. But my buddy told me, no, you got to check this out because it's really well done. And so I picked it up, and I got to tell you, I was pleasantly surprised. First of all, it's really easy to slip into these books. On the very inside cover of this issue #4, it gave a synopsis of the previous 4 issues. And I thought that was really cool because it got me up to date, and I didn't feel lost when I hopped into the story. So the story kind of puts you on some familiar ground of things that we know, kind of like our Spider-Man trope. But in this particular case, we have a girl who has been born with an incurable disease, and her family, one is her mom and dad. One is a scientist that deals with biological things, and the other one's a scientist that deals with technology, computers and stuff like that. And so basically, like I said, she has an incurable disease, and the mother, who's the biologist, basically takes the DNA from a white widow spider, a very rare spider, and splices it in with her DNA to give her regenerative capabilities to fight off this disease. Now, it works to a certain extent, but it's not quite doing it, and she's still in trouble. And so the father comes up with his piece of it and puts nanotechnology inside of her, and this gives her the cure, but at the same time, it gives her extra super abilities. Thought it was a great concept, but it's kind of that familiar ground of you have a superhero with some spider DNA inside of him, and so it's very, very easy to get into it. I got to tell you, the action and the villain that's inside of this book was so much fun. From cover to cover, it's pretty much a huge fight scene, but at the same time, it's giving you more of the backstory. And I really, really enjoyed this book. The artwork is a little more digital than I like, but it was solid. And at the very end, the last page, they introduced 2 new villains that I just thought were absolutely awesome looking. And so I'm definitely on board. I will be getting this book going forward. I would recommend that you definitely check it out. White Widow. This was issue number 4. I'm pretty sure you can still get the first 4 issues because they did issue number 2 and then it was like a 2.5. So there's definitely 4 issues before you get to this one. Anyway, check it out. It's awesome. Okay, folks, on to our next book, and we got The Flash, number 756. Of course, this is from DC Comics. This is written by the great Joshua Williamson and art by Christian Deuce. I don't know how you say it, but he's the one that's been on the book for a couple of issues. This book is really heating up. We're leading up to Williamson exiting on this book, and I think he's going to go out with a bang because it's really building up into a crescendo. In the wake of Barry enlisting his greatest enemy, the Reverse Flash, to help him take down Paradox, Paradox was trying to erase him from time, and so he went back in time to get Reverse Flash to help him because Reverse Flash was the only one to have ever been known to have been able to defeat Paradox. And so now that Paradox has been defeated, Barry's plan is backfiring on him because the Reverse Flash is now loose, and he's basically going throughout time and checking out all these places where the Flash has defeated his enemies, and he's figuring out why. And so basically, Reverse Flash is pulling up all these villains throughout history, all iconic villains like the Rogues, Gorilla Grodd, even his 2 kids, the Tornado Twins, all putting together a group that he's going to be calling the Legion of Zoom, and they're going to be coming after Barry. It's really building up into a fever pitch. I really, really enjoyed this book, and I mean, of course, on Barry's side, he basically wants to murder Thawne, so he's dealing with that. But at the same time, his speedster family is starting to come into play, and they're going to have basically 2 speedster groups going up against each other. I can't wait for that. It's going to be coconuts, as Rod the Weekender would say. It's going to be coconuts, man. Anyway, really, really enjoying this book. You didn't think Williamson was going to go out without a bang, did you? I didn't think so. He's definitely going to build up into something pretty fantastic, and I can't wait. Flash number 756. It's just another one of those books that's been great and a very solid run by Williamson, and I can't wait to see what he does next. Okay, folks, for our next book, we have Thor number 5 from Marvel Comics. Now, this was written by the great Donny Cates, and of course, arts by Nick Klein. I've really been enjoying the art by Nick Klein. It's kind of a painted style, and I think it really fits for what Cates is doing. Digging it. But this is definitely a continuation of the story that Donny Cates has been writing from the beginning since he hopped on this book, where basically Galactus came to enlist Thor as his herald to defeat this entity that's been coming called the Black Winter. And since issue number 1, they basically have been trekking through the galaxy, and Galactus has been devouring planets, building up this energy store that he's going to need to fight this, end-all enemy. And so that's kind of where we've been up until this point. And at the end of book number 4, we saw the Black Winter off in the distance. So we knew that they were going to be facing off against it in this book. And when this book starts off, we're already in the middle of battle. Now, I have my own thoughts about that. I kind of don't like when storytellers do that. I want to see people go into battle and, have a face-off. I usually don't like it when they start you like after the fact, either after the battle's been over or in the middle of the battle. That's just my personal preference, and I got a few reasons why I think writers do that. Sometimes I think it's lazy. But anyway, that's where we start off. They're already in the midst of battle, and it's fever pitched. And so as this fight ensues, basically it looks like they're fighting just blackness. We still don't know who or what this entity is, this force that's maybe it looks like a force of nature. We have no idea what the Black Winter actually is. But here we are in the midst of it, and it looks like it's just surrounding them, and they're trying to fight it off. But in the midst of it, this entity, or whatever it is, starts to talk to Thor and starts to basically tell him that he's going to show him Thor's end. Or have you seen your end? Do you want to see your end? And it keeps talking to him. And we finally get the reveal of what that end will be, and it's not what you think it is. But I really kind of dug the way this ended. It's definitely a cliffhanger with a kind of in-your-face thing that happens. I think they may have messed with continuity a little bit too much. I think anybody who's read it will know what I'm talking about. Give me your opinion on that, because I think that's a pretty huge one there. And so anyway, I really enjoyed it. I would say that out of the 5 so far, this was probably my least favorite of the books. And there was nothing wrong with it, but it just didn't have the punch that the other ones did. The other ones kind of had me on the edge of my seat waiting for this thing to happen. And now that it's happened, it's good, but it's kind of, I don't know, it just doesn't have anything that is grabbing me. But it's, like I said, there's nothing truly wrong with it. Anyway, check it out, folks. Let me know what you think, but I really love to know what you think about that last page and whether or not they may be messing with continuity too much. Leave me a comment. All right, folks, we're almost halfway through the show, and the next book we have is Rogue Planet number 2. This one coming from Oni Press. This one's written by Cullen Bunn. Love Cullen Bunn's writing, and the art is by Andy McDonald. And this book, bam, is just a complete continuation of what we had in book 1. In book 1, we had a distress signal on a planet that the salvagers were going to go check out, and of course, if they can help people out there, that's great, but at the same time, they're looking to make money. And they get there, and basically they have an away team that goes out to try to find the signal, and this monstrosity, tendrilled, alien-looking thing basically takes out and kills 4 of their men. And that's where we start off in this book. We see those 4 men, and their heads are gone, and these big, huge tendrils are inside of them, and it looks like they can be controlled like puppets from that aspect. But anyway, that's where we start off, and this alien thing, it has to be monstrous for it to be able to do this. Anyway, it looks like this thing won't attack the others as long as they don't attack it, and so they're kind of very warily walking up to their other counterparts who, have these tendrils inside of them, and the monster's not doing anything. They kind of are trying to figure out what's going on, and they go a little bit further, and they find there are thousands of humanoids with these tendrils inside of them. So this creature, monster, or whatever it is, it's killed a lot of people, and it has their bodies basically. We don't know yet if they control them or if it's feeding off of them or what it's doing, but it's super creepy because, true to Cullen Bunn, I think we're going to have something very special with this. We'll see. But definitely pick up Rogue Planet number 2. I'm enjoying it. All right, folks, here we go. Our next book is Batman number 93. Of course, this is from DC Comics. This is one we've all been waiting for. Of course, this is written by James Tynion IV, art by Gilliam March and Javier Hernandez, and the colors were done by Torme Mori and David Barron. Holy insanity, Batman. This was an amazing book. This is part 8 of their Dark Designs, which is basically setting us up for the Joker War. We're not quite there yet, but this book is basically launching us right into it. Tynion has weaved a damn good story from beginning to end, and I've just been enjoying it all the way through. We finally get this face-off between Batman and the designer, and of all places, Wayne Manor. And so Batman basically starts talking to him about the grand design, and it basically says, hey, now that I've got you, tell me what your grand design is. And I love it. The designer says, no, you're not going to have me confirm what you already know. You tell me what my design is. And Batman, being true to form, his detective self, he recounts the whole thing from beginning to end flawlessly as to what the designer's grand plan is, or watching it happen as he's recounting it. Of course, we've already read it, but this kind of fills in the gaps of what was really going on. Really enjoyed that part of the book. And then I won't give the ending away, but definitely one of the things that was a lot of fun inside of this book also was the end result of the huge face-off between Punchline and Harley Quinn. Had so much fun with the action inside of that part of the book. This whole storyline really culminates and comes together. The designer is not what we think it is, and it is really setting up where we're going, which is the Joker War next, folks. This has been just an amazing story from beginning to end. Part 8 of their Dark Designs, James Tynion is just killing it on this title, and I can't wait to see where they go next, because it's going to be crazy. Okay, folks, next we have Once and Future number 8 by Boom Studios. This one written by Karen Gillan, art by Dan Mora, and colors by Tamara Bonneville. Now, I always get a little excited when this book comes out. It's no secret that I love vivid color, and this book has one of the best colorists in comics out there, Tamara Bonneville. And I'll say that the colors in this book are amazing all the way through, as they are in every single one of Once and Future that I've read so far. And I've just really, she lays it on just beautifully inside of these books, and this one is no different. So in the last book, we had the knight, the greatest knight, Galahad, defeated, and that was kind of the last of Arthur's great warriors. And so Merlin basically summons another king, Beowulf, who's another one from mythology and from legend. And so here we have another undead king coming, and really well done. We have a small encounter with Arthur and Beowulf, which I thought was awesome. And then we have Beowulf basically tracking down our main characters at the end, and now what are they going to do, because he's coming after them strong. A lot of fun to read. I'll have to say, nothing really happens inside of this book. I mean, yes, Beowulf shows up, there's that little encounter with Merlin, but all the rest of it is just dialogue and setup for where we're going next. But even so, nothing happens inside of the book. It is definitely a great read. Once and Future has been one of my favorite books from Boom Studios. They've been killing it, and this is no different. If you haven't been reading the story, definitely pick up the trade. There's a trade out which collects, I think, the first 5 issues, and then you can pretty much collect the floppies from there. They're still available. But if you haven't been reading Once and Future, I'd highly recommend it. It is so much fun. The humor inside of it is, I mean, I love it. And the action, and then the trope of subversing the whole Camelot theme to make Arthur kind of a villain at this point, coming back from the dead. Great stuff. So definitely check out number 8. It like I said, nothing happens, but it's still a good read. There you have it, folks. And so for our next book, we have Batman Smile Killer. This is a one-shot from DC Black Label, written by Jeff Lemire, and art by Andrea Sorrentino. And I'll just say that Jeff Lemire is a master writer. I mean, he just keeps proving it again and again. I love his stuff, and I was so surprised by it. It really, really is an amazing read. The artwork inside of it, I think, is so stylized and nuanced, and complements it so well that it really is something special. So I would highly, highly recommend it. I'm not going to give away too much here, except to say that this isn't so much a continuation of what happened in Joker Killer Smile, but it plays upon what happened inside of those books. I would say that you don't even really need to read those first 3 books to get this one. This is kind of a standalone story on its own, and you can read it without having to read those other 3 and understand what's going on. I have to say that I was not expecting where he went with this. When I read that the title of this book was Batman Smile Killer, I really thought it was going to be about Batman coming and taking out the Joker for what he did in those first 3 books, and I couldn't be farther from the truth on that. What happened inside of this book I wasn't expecting. He takes Batman in a direction I have never seen before. I was highly surprised by it and enjoyed the read all the way through. The art, like I said, the artwork is definitely amazing and complements it. Definitely, I mean, I know some people don't like the magazine format. Definitely get this one, and if you don't buy it, definitely buy the digital copy. Whatever you do, get your hands on it, because it's a really, really well done book. All right, folks, and now we're on to my pick of the week. And my pick of the week this week is That Texas Blood, number 1 from Image Comics. This one is written by Chris Condon and art by Jacob Phillips. That's actually Sean Phillips' son. I got the cover that Sean Phillips actually did the cover artwork on it. But yeah, I mean, we have the great Sean Phillips. His son is doing a comic book. Now, this is the first issue of a brand new ongoing series. And not only is it the first issue, but it's a brand new collaborative team. Condon and Phillips are both relatively new. I don't think I've ever heard their names on any book. So coming out the gate, I was really intrigued by this because Chip Zdarsky actually wrote a pretty amazing review. He liked it, and you know me, I've been loving Zdarsky, so I'm going to trust him in what he says. And so I was definitely excited to read this book. Now, people have been liking it to No Country for Old Men, and I guess I could see that piece of it because it does put you in kind of like, the Southwest, and you have an older like county mountie or sheriff in town. So I can see that, but it really doesn't follow anything from No Country for Old Men. But I will say that it definitely feels like a Coen Brothers movie, hands down. And that's one of the things I enjoyed the most about this. We have this great character that's the sheriff that's basically trying to get to his birthday party. His wife is going to be cooking him some food, and he's on the hunt for a casserole dish that she needs to be able to cook. And in the midst of it, we get 2 scenes of some grisly murder, and that's been juxtaposed next to some pretty amazing comedic lines. And so you can see that it wasn't a very hard leap to say this is Coen Brothers like, that great dark humor, dark comedy that they do so well. And I had so much fun reading the book that, I had to laugh in a couple of spots. I was shocked in a couple of spots. And I thought, man, this is really special. And then I became really excited about the fact that this is not a mini-series. This is going to be an ongoing series. And if they keep this pace up, if they keep this type of writing up and the artwork as well, this is going to be something special. And I'm definitely on board for the ride. And then to top it all off, in the middle of this kind of dark comedy, Coen Brother-esque story, you have this supernatural element that's going on. I won't tell you what that is. Pick it up for yourself. But this could be absolutely crazy, and I'm loving it. I had so much fun reading it. It edged out Batman Smile Killer as my favorite read of the week because it was just so dang good. Wowzers. Definitely check it out. Highly recommend it. Pick of the week, That Texas Blood from Image Comics. And I think this is going to be a good one. So there you have it, folks. Those are my reviews. Hope you enjoyed those. Of course, before we end the show, I always bring my panel of the week. And this week's panel of the week comes from Batman number 93. The panel comes from the showdown between Punchline and Harley Quinn. We finally get to see just how ruthless Punchline is. And in the midst of their fight, she actually cuts Harley Quinn's throat. And I thought it was just an amazing panel. The action's great, but it was kind of telling, where this new rivalry that I think is forming is going to go. And I geeked out over it. It was awesome. There it is, panel of the week. Got sweaty. You guys, I hope you enjoy it. And there you go. Okay, well that's the show, folks. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for hanging out with me and having some coffee and talking comics. Make sure that you tune in for the roundtable that we're going to have on Comics with Bueller with Dylan and Robbie and myself and Bueller, and we're going to talk about the comics, our favorite comics of this month, and we're going to get into some other stuff, and then also the interview that's on Hydra Collectables, and then on Monday I'm going to go ahead and review more books, and so stay tuned. Again, thanks a lot, folks. Really appreciate you. You guys have been so amazing. And thank you so much for supporting the show. As always, folks, remember, support your local comic shop and Excelsior.
Whether Logan's claws could pierce Steve Rogers' shield.